Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Friday edition of Boilermaker Lounge. I am the sickly sounding Sam Sprunger, and as always, joined by the All American Grant Flora. Grant, how are we on Friday?
We're doing good. Yeah, it's I'm finally getting to the end of my break, so I start
Oh,
classes again on Monday. I know it's crazy, but I'm actually ready to get back into it, even though, it's always busy, but it's always fun. So,
yeah, I know the feeling. It's always nice to get back to what's normal. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It's nice to have that time off, but then also it's like, well, I'm used to a certain thing. Let's get back to it. But um, uh, the Boilermakers don't have their students on campus either, but they'll be coming back after this weekend and maybe even on Saturday. But we'll talk about that going forward. But you and I were talking a little bit off air before we were started recording. I put it in the title, odd feeling versus Washington. This was and I talked about it with Dustin Schutte on the post game show. This was just a really weird game. It didn't feel like it was. Well, it just was a weird game. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it was like I just felt like there were a lot of different I don't know, stretches throughout the game where just different things were happening. Like Purdue starts off great and then Washington kind of finds their rhythm and then Purdue closes the half strong and starts the second half strong where then Washington comes roaring back and like there was just from minute 1 to minute 40 it was like just different things were going on throughout the game and it ended up being a what looked like a comfortable win for Purdue, and yet 8 points is the fewest they've won by since like before Iowa State. So
I think
yeah,
it's the fewest period this year
they have.
because they beat Memphis by 9.
I think Alabama was like 7. I think technically that would take it, but outside
Oh,
of
I thought
that,
they had them by 8 or 9 as well.
I don't
You're
know.
right. It's
But
one
yeah,
of the closest games. Let's say it that way.
yeah.
I've got the scores. I'm pulling a Dustin Schutte, and I'm not even looking at the stats I have in front of me. Yeah, they okay. It was 87-80. Yeah,
Okay,
okay. So the second closest game they had all year.
but like it didn't feel anywhere close to that. Like it felt like I don't know, like Purdue comfortably won the game, but there was just like it was almost like some garbage time, but it wasn't because all the players were still in. But like there was just it was a late surge from West Washington that I think everybody knew was too little, too late, yet it was still concerning at the same time.
Well, and Coach Painter talked about it in the press conference afterwards. He said that it was there were a lot of letdowns defensively. He said offensively there wasn't a lot that concerned or concerned him because he said you've got to be honest with your guys. The one thing you've just got to be honest with them and say just tell them where things broke down, and that was excuse me, the defense. They were still putting points on the board, maybe not at the same consistency that Washington did right at the end of the where they were able to get back into within inside 10 points. But like there were just a lot of letdowns when it came to the defensive side of the ball. And I'm looking at I wanted to look at the split box. That's what I wanted to look at. The total rebounds excuse me, it was 37-25. That's a dominating game for Purdue. And one thing that Washington actually one of the few things that they are really do well is rebound the basketball. So they did well overall, but if you look at the second half, oh well, that even blows that out of the water. Here's the thing. This is why it seems so weird is Purdue had a 17-point lead at the half. It didn't seem like it was a 17-point lead. It seemed like they had some distance, and maybe it was one of those that they shot, or they had a 9 to 12 point lead, and 12 is kind of being gracious. But then you look at the scoreboard, and it's a 17 or 18-point lead at the half, 17, and but then they grow out the lead, and it seemed like Washington was getting every free ball at times, but yet then Purdue would turn the ball over, and then Washington would do it. And it just seemed like, okay, especially at the beginning of the game, Washington turned the ball over 3 times in their first 4 possessions. And then they ended the half with only 2 more than Purdue at the half.
Yeah. Oh man, where do we even start?
Right.
I thought defensively it was really good for the first 30 minutes of the game. Like for the most part, I mean they held them to 28 points in the first half. I think it was with roughly 8 or 10 minutes to go. At some point it was like 40, what was it? 42 to like
It was
I don't know,
60 to 40
60.
at the under 12.
Yeah, 60-40 and under 12, maybe 64-42 at one point or something
Right.
like that.
Right.
So, like, basically, through 3 quarters of the game, Washington was going to be under 60 again. Purdue was going to hold another team under 60. And then they had the late flurry, and they ended up getting to 73. Purdue, like, got some steals. They forced some turnovers there, especially in the first half. I don't know what the stat says. I'm trying to find it right now. Yeah, they had 6 steals in the game. So, like, they were forcing some turnovers, blocking shots. Like, the defense was pretty solid for the majority of the game,
Yeah.
but then toward the end, Washington hit some shots. Kamari Peterson, right? Yeah, it was he was the one that had 5 threes. Yep. He goes 5 for 12 from 3, which isn't like an insane percentage, but when you're shooting that many of them, go 5 for 12 was good. And Purdue gave him some cleanish looks. But like we talked about in the preview, I think that Washington wasn't a very great shooting team. Like I think if you're Purdue, I'd rather give a semi-clean 3 than to overplay it and give up something in the paint. And
Right.
so like I'm not like too upset about that, but it's just like they just started giving up some things and they turned the ball over, which led to easier possessions for Washington. And things just kind of went to the wind. And it was like, next thing you know, it was kind of like Wisconsin where you felt comfortable. And then with Wisconsin, they were within 11 with a few minutes to go. Washington had it kind of in the same range. I never thought that Purdue was in danger of losing the game. And yet, you add 2 minutes to the clock and they could have.
Yeah. Did you feel and Dustin and I talked about this, that's why I'm asking this, is did you feel more unsettled by Wisconsin pulling to 11 with like 4 minutes left, or Washington getting it inside 10 points?
Yeah, I mean that's a good question.
Because
I
honestly,
don't know.
mine was Wisconsin. Like
Yeah.
it didn't seem, like you said, it never seemed like it was actually an 8-point game. Again, last night or Wednesday night against Washington, but against Wisconsin, it felt like they could have lost grips of it. It never seemed they really lost the grip of the game against Washington.
Yeah, I never did either. The thing with Wisconsin was like because Braden had just broken the record, it's almost like there's a little bit more of an excuse, not that it's good, but like I can see what happened. Whereas with Washington, it's like there's nothing to me that would have caused it except that stuff just started happening. Like there was no
Right.
moment. I mean, you had some questionable calls, like
Oh,
the flagrant on Clough, and then the second one. I thought I didn't really get a great look at the flagrant. I didn't think it could have been upgraded, but like then the one after that, when he picked up his fourth, he was literally leaning away from the guy, and I was like, oh man. And of course, that just even if they're not like if they aren't actually bad calls, when they just seem like they're not going your way, it gets in your head. So like that kind of stuff was happening, but overall, it's just like I don't know what happened to cause what happened in the last 8 minutes. It just kind of did.
right. It didn't, and I'm, we've had enough conversations that you kind of know that I'm not going to openly blame refereeing, but I'm going to call it out when it's horrible. It was garbage yet last night. Wednesday night. It was absolutely garbage. They missed a lot of calls that, and it made me think Zach Edey was out there because Daniel Jacobson was getting mugged on some plays. that you're just like, okay, I'm not asking you to call a touch foul, but when he's getting kind of beat up by a guy, that's bigger than him, and Kepnang, I think Frank Kepnang or Kepnang. He's a big dude, and he was fighting with Jacobson, and there were multiple times that Jacobson was getting tossed around a little bit, and there wasn't a whistle, and then right back down at the other end of the floor, they're calling something, and I'm like, I don't understand how you're seeing this completely different. And yeah, I'm a Purdue fan. Yeah, I've kind of got old gold shaded glasses to where I kind of see things every once in a while in that shade. But at the same time, I can be objective to the point where, okay, that was a foul, or no, that's a good play through. I don't understand the reasoning behind the flagrant. I understand what the ruling is, but I've also seen people take elbows to the face where they said, "Oh, it was just through the action of the move." He went to go check him, and the guy kind of went down at the same time his elbow came up. And yeah, it made some contact, but I don't know that was a flagrant. And there were just a lot of questionable calls that kind of derailed some of the stuff that Purdue was doing, that kind of threw them off, and maybe led to a little bit of what happened with that comeback.
Yeah, and I don't remember off the top of my head, but I kind of remember there being a few calls that probably could have gone Washington's way that didn't get called. Obviously, it felt more like they went in Washington's favor, but obviously, like you said, we're both biased.
Yeah.
I
Oh
I
yeah.
think I think the one thing I would say though, pretty confidently, is like it felt like the essence of an inconsistent officiated game. Like there were calls that were light fouls that it's like, why are we calling that? They should just let them play. And there were times there obviously should have been whistles and there weren't. Like Fletcher Lawyer was getting fouled the entire way up the court when there was like a minute to go, and it was like Washington
Yes.
was trying to
Yes.
foul him and they weren't calling it. Ended up turning the ball over, I think. And yeah, just stuff like that where it's like that's what frustrates coaches is when they can't tell their guys, okay, you can be more physical because they're not calling as much, or they're calling everything, you better back off. Like, if you're going to make those calls, at least make them the same way throughout the entirety of the game. And that's
Yeah.
what I thought was all over the place. And that's the kind of stuff that you got to figure out.
They were being very consistent at being inconsistent in what they were doing. And
Right.
but Braden Smith leads the way for the Boilermakers with 23 points. He was 10 of 15 of shooting, and you know what? I mean, that his second half was phenomenal. 15 points in that second half. He ended the first half with 8, and then he ended up with 23. Not the best of days when it comes to his assist to turnover ratio, because he turned the ball over an awful lot. He had 6 turnovers, only 7 assists, and I say only because that ratio, not necessarily because of the total. Excuse me. If I'm looking at, I say only 7 assists, I would say 7 assists if he had 2 turnovers, and it was kind of a sloppy day when it came to the ball handling a little bit. He had one where TKR was supposed to roll a little quicker than he did, and Braden just tossed it right out of, or bounced it right out of bounds, and it just, he was a little off. The fact that Dustin and I at halftime looked at each other and said, it's a half when you sit there and say it just doesn't seem like it's flowing very well, but yet they shot 68% and have a 17-point lead at the half. It just didn't seem like it got it going. But that second half, honestly, it was so spread out. CJ Cox had 9 points to lead the scorers in the first half. TKR had 8. Like it was widespread on the scoring, and the second half turned into a little bit of a different half with Smith. Basically he wasn't having the great assist day, so he took it upon himself to put points on the board. And you know what? We needed those points that second half.
Yeah, it was really good to see him just seek out his own offense like that and score. Like we just haven't seen him put up. I don't know what his point high or scoring high on the season is, but he
16
hasn't.
maybe.
Yeah, he hasn't had many of those, upper teens or 20 plus point games, if
Right.
if any. And so, like, just to see him do that is good. Just so it's not like when he absolutely needs to score that many points for Purdue to win. It's not like the first time he's done it all year. So that was good to see. And, 7 assists, especially with the amount of minutes he played. Like, he didn't play nearly as many minutes as usual because of foul trouble. Like,
Right.
28 minutes doesn't look low, but he's used to like 36. Um, so, like, the 7 assists, I don't think that's low, but it is when
No,
you
it was
compare it to the
it's the
turnovers.
turnovers
Yeah.
combined with it. Yeah.
So yeah, and that's I'm not really worried about that either. Yeah, it wasn't good. It's uncharacteristic, but I don't think it's going to happen very often. It's just yeah, one of those things where there were just some weird stuff going on, and one of those was that Braden struggled to take care of the ball.
Well, there was a couple of things that it was the first time in Braden Smith's history or career at Purdue that he has not started the second half. It is the first time Chris Foreman he said it without actually searching it. He says, "I'm pretty positive this is the first time ever that that he didn't start the second half." But then Coach Painter also said, he was pretty sure that it was the first time that it happened. But to go off of that, to kind of piggyback off of that, Omer Meyer had an amazingly strong game Wednesday because he had to come in and he had to be Braden Smith. And Braden even addressed that as well as, like, look, it's great to be able to have, because they asked him about more rest. He wants to play all 40 minutes, but does it help having somebody like Omer Meyer on the bench that can basically, run the show, not exactly the same, but Braden even said he does it just as good as I do. And that's a bold statement from the guy that's coming out, Braden Smith, because they have the confidence in Omer. And you know what? As a freshman, Grant, this kid played a strong game last night or Wednesday night. I gotta
Yeah.
quit saying last night. Goodness,
It was a good game
it's
from
the
him for sure.
cold.
It was
Got to be the
yeah,
cold.
yeah, it's that. Um, yeah, it was good to see Omer hit some shots. He was 3 or 4 from the field, 2 of 2
Yep.
from 3. He's struggled a little bit, I think, just in his scoring and shooting really the past month or 2. I mean, he's knocked down a couple of threes in the past couple of games, but, like, this was definitely the most efficient and strongest game he's had, especially because, like, sometimes with him, he can seek it out so much to where he takes some shots that he shouldn't take. And
Mm-hmm.
I didn't
Yeah.
feel like he did that at all in this game. I thought the ones he took, he should have taken, then he didn't take shots that he shouldn't have taken. And so it was good to see that, good to see him make some. And it's one of those situations where, in the long run, it probably benefits Purdue. Like to have Omer come in and get some confidence, and yet Purdue never was going to lose that game. So, um, yeah, that was definitely a bright spot. Thought in addition to that, CJ Cox, like similar to that as well. I think he could have ended up with more points than what he had. He only had 11, but he had some clean looks from 3 that were just slightly off. But still 11 points and a lot of intangible things from him too.
He was addressed in the post game too to Coach Painter, in the fact that he has come through, and we've talked about it, but it actually finally got talked about by Coach Painter, where I've seen. He said he's pretty much solidified and cemented himself as their defensive guy.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he's their defensive specialist. Can he score? Absolutely. Do they need him to score? No, but they'll take whatever they give him or whatever he gives offensively. But what he's in that lineup to do is be the defensive guy for the one that they feel, obviously he's not going to go guard a 6'11" dude. I mean, we know that. But he's the lockdown guy with the guards, and it just shows that we hit the nail on the head. You and I hit the nail on the head on that, because that's what he brings. But at the same time, it shows that the confidence is coming even further, because Coach Painter even mentioned, it makes it awful hard to sub him out, knowing that that's what he is. That it doesn't prevent him from being subbed out, but it makes it more difficult to say, okay, we've got to take him out now. And so CJ Cox, I forget who it was earlier this season that said he could be having a breakout season. I think that's what we're seeing. we're seeing him become the breakout defensive stud. Is what we're seeing.
Yeah, and he's affecting a lot of big time players. Like, my
Desmond
was
Claude
he?
had 9
Yeah,
points last night, or jeez, Wednesday night.
yeah. He definitely did a good job on Claude. He's done. He was on Blackwell, I believe, against Wisconsin.
9 points
Um,
there.
yeah, like he's guarded. He guarding Keyshawn Hall against Auburn? Probably because Keyshawn Hall had a bad game.
Probably
Um,
so.
like
I don't have the numbers off the top of my head for him though.
he subtly kind of shut down a lot of star players throughout this season, and that's huge because you think
Cade
back to
Tyson
like,
too. Wasn't he the
yeah,
one that started out on Cade Tyson for
it
Minnesota too?
probably, and so um, it reminds me of like Lance Jones 2 years ago, which
Yeah,
like
yeah.
was an underrated piece of what made that team so good, and so to have a player that kind of fits that role is huge for this team going forward, and not only is he great defensively, but like you said, he can score. And I think
Yeah,
it's not like you're right, they don't need him to score, but at the same time they need him to still be a threat. Like you don't want to just be able to leave
exactly.
him open. Like if teams aren't going to guard him and they can just take that guy and drop back and focus more on the other guys, then it's like, okay, it's you got to get some more scoring in there. But like you got to guard him. He came through and made some big plays offensively last night or on Wednesday night.
Now you
I did
got
it
it.
too. You're getting it into my head. So yeah, I think that's the thing with Cox is like he can make shots, he can get some offense, but right, like you said, he doesn't have to, and that's a
Uh-huh.
good position to be in.
Yeah, they're not at the point where they're relying on him to contribute offensively as well as be the shutdown, lockdown defensive guy. And honestly, with the way things go, I don't know that expectation might not be changed after this year as well, with all the different pieces that could be still on the roster coming forward, to where you could rely on them to be the scoring options. And CJ, if you can give us points, great, and be that threat, but then still be our lockdown. Now, do I want that necessarily? Not necessarily. I think CJ Cox has got a good offensive game. It's just a matter of what honestly, I think it's one of those expectations of what do you need from me, coach, because that's what I'm here for. I really do think that that's a big part of a lot of the uh, what you get from CJ Cox. Biggest thing from this game, takeaway from this game, is the amount of turnovers that Purdue had. They had 14. They actually were lost the turnover battle, which is amazing. Again, the weirdness of the game. Amazing to think, because Washington turned the ball over 3 times in the first 4 possessions, had 10 turnovers in the first half, and ended up with only 13, and beat Purdue on the turnover battle 14-13. I don't know. It just it was, there were some sloppy plays. And don't get me wrong, this is a mountain out of a molehill type of thing, because they walked away with an 8-point game win, and it didn't seem like it was that close, even though it was obviously that close, because that's what it ended. But it just the concern is, are they going to uh, is this an anomaly to where this is just a one-off and they come back, kind of like the Iowa State second half? Is it a one-off half, and that's not what Purdue is? I'm saying yes, but my goodness, they looked kind of sloppy at certain points.
Yeah, I looking at like the specifics of like the turnovers and just some of the defensive issues, even some of the missed shots and missed free throws and stuff like that they had there in the second half. I don't think any of those things are like super concerning issues for me at this
Right.
point. Like I don't think we're going to see a team that in the rest of the Big Ten season struggles with turnovers. Like they haven't struggled with turnovers really all year long. I don't think I'm there yet to where I think that's going to be the case. The
They
only
haven't made
real,
it. They haven't made it habitual yet.
yeah, the only concern I probably have from any of this, like going forward, is like this is 2 straight games where we've let teams basically go on 10-plus point runs.
without being
And
able to close it out.
yeah, and the only reason that Purdue wins the game is because they built a 20-some point lead. Like, what happens when you've got it seemed like Illinois down by 13 points with 8 minutes to go, and something like this happens, and now instead of being 10 behind with 2 minutes to go, it's tied, and they have all the momentum. Like, that's where it's like, okay, we gotta figure out how to close these games out. And I think when you are only up by 13 and you're facing a better team like an Illinois or a Michigan State or Michigan, I think Purdue probably locks in a little better and this doesn't happen. But
Right.
it's still like, okay, when it happens twice in a row, it's still a concern. But other than that, like, I think for the most part, this was a thumbs up game. Like, they really destroyed a Washington team that is not a bad team at all. They've got some strong players, and
Right.
yeah, I thought overall the game was a huge thumbs up.
Yeah, other than the weird feeling, and I know that's like the 17th time I've said that, it just that is my overall takeaway from this game was it was an 8-point game final. It was 17 at the half. Purdue got it to 23 in the second half, and it just felt odd. I don't know if it was because the crowd never really got constantly in it because the guys didn't hit 2 or 3 big shots in a row to where that crowd could really get it going. Now, don't get me wrong, it's a little different than with the students there. It's a lot louder. It didn't seem as loud. It got loud at points, but it didn't seem as loud as what it kind of that white noise loud that it is. There's just that constant hum when the students are there. That wasn't there. It got loud, but Purdue didn't put a bunch of like multiple. The closest thing was right out of the chute where they force a turnover, they get a lay in. Washington goes down and travels. Purdue goes down and hits a 3. Then they get another steal, a lay, and they built that 9-0 lead. It was rocking in there, and then Washington hits a 3, and then Purdue turns it over, and then they winnowed it down. I believe it was 9-6 before Purdue scored again, and it just kind of took and then it just never really exploded. The biggest run was 10-0. Which means Purdue had a 9-0 run and a 10-0 run, but nothing to where it was like they were just hitting, the threes weren't falling yet. They still have yet to have a game where they're hitting threes hand over fist. You know what I mean? And that I expect that to happen at some point. And maybe they're holding on till Michigan, but that's fine. That's fine. Go ahead. Hit 17 against Michigan. I'm okay with that. But no, I just it was a weird game for that fact that Purdue didn't really ever put it away, but yet they were up by 23 in the second half. But yet I never really felt that they were threatened. That's why it was an unusual game for me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess just a couple other things too. Like 5 of 15, I think it's what they shot from 3. That's what I saw. That's like also a weird stat. I feel like usually they shoot more threes than that. Usually they make more. 5 of 13 or 5 of 15, still not great. Fletcher had another just off game. Like, yeah, we didn't talk about Fletcher at all yet.
But you know what the weird stat about Fletcher is, Grant? He was plus 16 in the plus minus, which is highest on the team.
Yeah, and like it felt like he had at least the worst offensive game out of pretty much all of those guys.
Only had 5 points.
Sometimes it's just, sometimes I feel like you look for trends and you look for, what was the reason a team was able to win or lose and stuff. And sometimes it's like plays just happen and you end up with a team that wins the game, and it's hard to find the stuff that makes sense. It's just like, well, ultimately this team made more shots and they put more points up on the board. Washington had 28 field goals. Purdue had 34. Like, that's kind of the difference at the end of the day. So, yeah, I don't know. Just weird.
Well, I did one last thing, and then we'll move to the preview for Saturday is for Fletcher. Was his biggest knock is his detriment, I guess, is defense. Last night he played the best defense I've seen him play. He was filling in, he was flashing to a guy that should be or could have been getting an open pass and maybe having an open shot. He was flashing and either preventing the pass from going to that guy or allowing just enough time for that guy's man to get over to where he was preventing a dribble drive or he was preventing a wide open three. And then everybody that he was playing defense against, he was putting a body on. He was actually getting a little physical. Yeah, I liked what I saw, and maybe it was, hey, I've been struggling offensively, so I put work in on getting better defensively. At least I can do this. And I don't know that he ever thinks about whether he's struggling. I really don't. So that could be a complete makeup in my mind. But he's gotta know, okay, I haven't hit any shots or any threes or whatever. But he was playing some good defense last night, and I don't care who hears me say it, because he actually did a really good job, phenomenal job in my opinion, on the defensive end.
Yeah, we've talked about how like defense, rebounding, hustle, those are the things you can control, and I felt like
Right.
he did that. He had 4 rebounds, like that's not bad.
Two
So yeah,
steals.
that's right. That's good stuff to see. Is like even when you're struggling shooting or offensively, being able to do those things keeps you on the floor, and it's always going to be a way you can help the team, even if you're having an off night. So
Yep,
yeah, I think that even connects to like his leadership and his maturity, and
for sure.
it's the reason you have him around for sure.
Well, I said it after the Iowa State game, and it happened at least from the second half, from the halftime break till the end of the game against Minnesota, is Lord help the Penn State Nittany Lions coming into Mackey after 2 straight games of, like, exactly like you said, Purdue not being able to close with that huge lead that they had built. And I often say, having coached for many years, that you build a big lead in order to be able to weather a storm. So you're up by 23 and you end up winning by 8. Guess what? That's why you built the 23-point lead. Is you could struggle, not that you want to, but you can struggle and still win the game by 4 possessions, 3 possessions, I guess, because of 3-pointers. But still, my point being is uh, it's still a concern. And I think that they kind of saw that too. Braden made the comment after the Wisconsin game that, for the last 8 minutes of the game, he kind of didn't know where he was. Well, that means his head wasn't in the game really for that last 8 minutes. I don't know what happened on Wednesday night. I got it right there. Wednesday night, but it happened again. And I think at some point the floodgates are going to come open, and Lord help the Penn State Nittany Lions as they come in on Saturday at 2 p.m. On Big Ten Network. They come into Mackey at 9-6, 0-4. The last time they were out was at the Michigan game. Yes, correct. I clicked on the wrong thing.
Yeah, they played that on Tuesday, I think.
Yes. So they 2-point loss to Michigan, the number 2 team in the country. Could have been an anomaly, an overlook by Michigan, but still, to only lose a 2-point game to Michigan, a pretty good outing. But at the same time, that was in Happy Valley. This is in Mackey Arena.
Yeah, I agree. I think Purdue, even because like that Washington game, while they had a good game, they weren't happy with how things ended, I don't think. And so
win's a win.
Right.
That was said multiple times, but you could tell they weren't satisfied with it.
Yeah, and that's going to help them tomorrow for sure. So I think Purdue is going to make life difficult for Penn State, but like Penn State just played Michigan tougher than really anybody's played them since like what TCU and Wake Forest at the beginning of the season, when Michigan was not really hadn't figured things out.
They were still
yet.
feeling things out.
Right, yeah. Since Michigan's like gotten rolling, nobody's come close to doing anything like what Penn State did. And to be honest, I didn't think Penn State looked that good. Like I don't think they've looked good all season. Even in that game, like they just didn't. There were opportunities for them to do more damage that they weren't able to take,
Right.
and yet they still hung around in the game. So um, it's going to be interesting because anyone that can compete with Michigan, you think, can come into anywhere, and you got to be able to take them seriously. But at the same time, they also just outside of that Michigan game, Penn State has really struggled, and I guess they competed with Michigan State, but
I was gonna say only
um,
lost by 4 to Michigan State,
but
but they
yeah,
lost by 8 to Illinois and by, oh goodness, 20, 38, 41 to IU.
yeah. So I guess it doesn't make any sense, right? Is they've played the toughest teams in the Big Ten tough, and then they get blown out by a middle of the road Big Ten team. So I don't know. Maybe Penn State just plays to the level of their competition a little bit, in which case Purdue better be ready to go. But at the same time, I think being in Mackey, like you said, it's going to be huge. And
Michigan State was at Penn State. Illinois was at Penn State.
okay,
Michigan was at Penn State.
yeah, and they
IU
also struggle.
IU was at Assembly Hall.
And yet, like you've watched the Penn State games on TV. There are not many people in that arena.
Oh
Like that's
no.
not much of a home court advantage. And
No, and
yet,
Dustin Schutte and I were talking about that. They should go back to their old arena that they still have, because the amount of people that go to Bryce Jordan would pack the house that they've got there, and that would be more of a home court advantage. Is go back to that one, man. When you're playing in front of 12 people, it looks like it's not working for you.
are you talking about the Palestra? Or are you
No,
talking about
that's
their
in
old?
Philadelphia. They
Yeah.
have, it's like University Hall or something
Okay, they have
on
another one.
campus. It's where they played before the Bryce Jordan was built.
Okay.
And back in the mid 90s, and I was telling him about this, that I can remember Glenn Robinson in his sophomore year, so his first year at Purdue. This was actually his junior year, the year that they were really highly ranked. They were number 7 in the country, and they're at this place. And the reason why I remember this so vividly, because I thought it was hilarious. You've got a 6'8" Glenn Robinson stand there with the ball getting ready to inbound, and there's some dude in a sweatshirt standing right next to him. And it's a Penn State sweatshirt, so like he's rooting against, like they were like shoulder to shoulder with players. Like it was disruptive, and Penn State won that game. They beat the 7th ranked team in the country, and Penn State had I believe they had a couple of decent players, but they weren't a great team. But they had such an advantage with that crowd. It would behoove them to move there.
Yeah, and even like I know they've played games at the Palestra
Yep.
as like substitute home games. That would be good. That's a smaller place, so that would be good for them overall. But yeah, it's more to do with the fact when you have to play on the road in some tough environments. It's more about that than the fact that your home court is just so strong. Um, so yeah, all things considered, there I expect Purdue to roll in this game, but Penn State's just kind of a weird team in the way that they've competed with teams this season.
Yeah, I mean the ESPN predictor has Purdue at a 96.6% likelihood to win this game, and I can't say that I necessarily disagree with that. I mean, what is it? Kenyon Mingo, is that his name?
Caden Mingo.
Caden Mingo. He's the leading scorer and the lead assist guy for Penn State, averaging 14.9 and 4.5 assists a game. And I mean, I haven't even looked at their roster, honestly, to tell you the truth, to see what they've got. But at 9-6, their best win, I'm looking. They've beaten Navy, they've beaten Harvard, and Campbell. I mean, that's about. They've lost every big name that you can see in their schedule so far. They've lost. They lost to Providence. They lost to IU. They lost to Michigan State. They lost to Pitt. They lost to Illinois. They lost to Michigan. Like anybody that isn't, they have 0 quad one wins. I can guarantee you that none of these wins are quad ones. And so for them to then go on the road, I just don't know that they're going to have much help when it comes to staying in the game. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but Not saying anything against IU, but if they're beating them by 41 at Assembly Hall, Purdue should be winning this comfortably. I'm not saying by 41 or more. I'm just saying comfortably. There shouldn't be much doubt.
Yeah, well, also, Caden Mingo didn't even play against Michigan. The leading scorer was out against Michigan, and yet,
And they still only lost by 2.
yeah. So I'm looking at this Penn State team based off the Michigan game, and I'm kind of discarding everything else just because
Yeah.
when you have your leading scorer out, and then you compete with a team like that when nobody's competed with them all season long, um, I feel like they're a different team at this point. Like I think Ivan Juric, who is only averaging like 9 points a game, he had 20 against Michigan, and I just from looking at it because I watched a decent amount of that game when I saw Penn State was competing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he's probably their best player. Just the from looking at him as like a bigger guy, but that's a way he can score and just the way that he looks when he shoots the ball and whatnot. Like to me, he seems like their best player. Um, Obviously, Freddie DeLeon is also pretty good. He's averaging like 14 a game, I think, had 17 against Michigan. But like they've got some couple guys. Those two played well, and then Mingo when he's in is obviously good. He's leading them in scoring. So they have a few guys that can go and
Was
both
he
the
hurt?
front court.
I didn't even
I
see why he missed.
I think it was, but I honestly don't even know. I just
Thought maybe he
remember
had the
hearing
flu or
that.
something.
Yeah, I just remember hearing that their leading scorer was out, and then looking at the stats, I'm seeing he's not there. So, yeah, I'm not 100% sure why he wasn't in.
I'm not highly worried about it, but at the same time, it's kind of curious as to why. Um, I don't know. I see what I know what you're talking about, and I get what you're talking about, but I don't know. Going on the road is a different animal when when you have shown no wherewithal to win against or compete even against somebody on the road compared to what you're able to do at home. Are they better than what they were at the beginning of the season? I don't doubt that they are, but at the same time, going on the road to play in a place like Mackey Arena, where I don't know, you were there on Wednesday as a fan. Did you read any of the things that people say about Mackey Arena? Like their
Um,
quotes up on the video boards as on the side, the ribbon boards on the sides. Different various people that aren't from Purdue that come in and talk about or give their quote about Mackey Arena. Jess Settles, former Iowa player, and he's a Peacock broadcaster now, had the best one that says, "These guys or this crowd and this arena makes you hate playing basketball." He
oh
says
man,
it's absolute torture. And
that's
so
funny.
that's a big statement, and it's not wrong. And I would assume that there are going to be more students there on Saturday compared to what the student section looked like on Wednesday. So tomorrow, I imagine it won't be a full student section. Don't get me wrong, because I think the paint crew has officially announced that they'll be back for the Iowa game in full force against Iowa. But there will be those students that start coming back that knew that they were going to come back, and they're going to be at that game.
Do you think because they sell out those tickets that are usually student section tickets to fans? So how would the students have access to those?
I just think if do they not even give students access to them?
I don't know. Maybe they do, but
Because probably a majority of students are going to be like, I'm not going to be there for those games. So
yeah,
and with the way the tickets work now, that you can do a student ticket to where you can't sell it anyways. So it couldn't be just like, I want those so I can sell them. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I would be willing to bet it's going to be a little bit more raucous than it was on Wednesday against Penn State tomorrow.
yeah. Either and like it's always good. Even like Wednesday, there were a lot of just the fans do a great job. So,
Oh, for sure.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's gonna be good. I think Purdue's gonna come out ready to fix some things, and hopefully it's a game where they can get back in the flow. Some of the guys that maybe struggled. We didn't talk about
Mm-hmm.
Jakari Harris against Washington, but he didn't do a whole lot. Maybe
No.
he can get more involved. Fletcher, some of those guys, and we can just get a better feeling heading into some of these bigger games with Iowa, and then the West Coast trip.
Jakari didn't even take a shot. He had one rebound and didn't even take a shot.
And he probably should have. There were a couple where he kind of faked and passed or something where it's like he could have just let that one fly.
Right. Well, there was I know there was one that he was going to take a three, but he kind of bobbled the pass to him a little bit that allowed the defense to close in on him, and then he passed it away, and it came right back to him, and he kind of hesitated, after that. So yeah, I know there were a couple of examples of that, but yeah, Purdue's got some stuff to kind of iron out, because next Wednesday doesn't get any easier, not at all. But Iowa comes into town, and before the Boilers go on the West Coast trip, which is not going to be a fun time, especially, well, I guess USC's been struggling a little bit, but they've been struggling on the road, having gone to Michigan and Michigan State and getting it handed to them, both of those places. They get back home and are able to host the Boilermakers and somebody else. I don't know who else is out there with them, because they kind of do the two teams do the rotation at the same time or whatever. But Purdue will be out there on the West, but they've got to get better, get some things better, remedy some things before Iowa comes into town next week.
Yeah, and Iowa, not to get too far ahead and look ahead to that before Penn State, but like they're the type of team that can bite you at home if you aren't, like, if you don't come out ready to play and kind of on point. They're a team that can get you.
They're also a team that can lose to Minnesota.
Yeah, there's definitely that, but like, yeah, you just want to be ready and feeling good about yourselves heading into that game, and so that's a huge part of Saturday. But also,
that's why you don't look past this game,
right? Yeah, and so let's get this. Let's play a full 40 minutes. Let's get some guys involved that maybe have been struggling. Heading into Iowa, kind of feeling fresh and good, 5-0. And just feel good about ourselves.
Yep. Foot on the gas. Don't let it up. Get a speeding ticket if you can, because that means you're not slowing down any bit whatsoever. But hopefully that's what Saturday or tomorrow turns into with that as well. So I guess that wraps up the Friday edition of Boilermaker Lounge. A big weekend to kind of set the table for a really difficult stretch for Purdue coming up. The last, like we mentioned, Iowa, then on the West Coast, and then when they come back, I believe that's when they start the Illinois. When they come back from UCLA, they play Illinois, go to IU, then they have Maryland and Oregon, and then it's Nebraska, Iowa, Michigan, and IU, Michigan. Like, you get a couple of games in there to kind of go, but other than that, you've got to take care of business. So Penn State tomorrow, and then it starts then it gets fun.
Yeah.
But you know what? 39-1, it's gonna be fun to watch. So it just is gonna happen, right?
Yeah, it's gonna be. They've had a pretty easy first 4 games as far as the schedule compared to other teams, and really this 5th game too. So to have such a difficult conference, particularly the first 5 games playing probably bottom half teams, means the rest of your season is going to be loaded, and that's what we're going to see.
Of course, that's going to be a knock. Is they haven't played anybody. Of course, they're 5-0. Oh, shut up! Can't control the record or the schedule. But anyways, that brings us to the end. Thanks so much for joining us, Grant. Enjoy the game tomorrow as you get to cover it in house. Enjoy the game there. But for the All-American Grant Flora, I'm Sam Sprunger. We will see you on Tuesday.